Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, first story this afternoon, government says it has made the required financial provision to accommodate an increase in the national minimum wage. The National Tripartite Committee, made up of government and organized labor, have announced an increase in the minimum wage. It is going up by 11% to 11 cedis 82 pesos. Considering government's rising wage bill, there are fears the state could struggle to pay workers, and especially because of the challenges with revenue mobilization. Speaking to Joy Business, Deputy Finance Minister Abnor Sayasari assured there was no cause for alarm.
What happens is that it is not just the minimum wage that is negotiated at the NTC or at during every year. We also look at the base pay. The base pay is how much government workers, the increment that government workers get yearly. And for the base pay, it went to 12%. So government will make provision to the full extent of the 12% that we have accepted to give to workers as increments in salaries for 2020.
It is coming at a time when there's so many calls that government wage bills and all that is getting high. When you look at our collections, most of them goes into paying of salaries, compensation and all this. How do you justify that?
It is not a matter of justifying. When workers work, they are supposed to earn salaries. It is also up to us to make our revenue collection systems efficient so that we can increase the revenue and so that when workers work and whatever is due them, we are able to pay them. So this is how we're going to go about the whole thing. Government will make the provision, and whatever we do as workers, once we work, we are expected to be paid our salaries. Government will do everything possible to maximize the revenue so that we do not go about borrowing to pay workers, but rather it is our productivity and the revenue that will come about as a result of the work that we do and the taxes that we collect, we will be able to use to pay.
So it's going to be the 2020 budget?
Yes, it is going to start from the minimum wage increase, and the base pay increase is going to start from January 2020.
Now, prices of various petroleum products have started going up today. The various oil marketing companies have started applying their revised energy sector levies. There's more in the Flowing Business Desk report.
To say the National Petroleum Authority last Friday directed various oil marketing companies to start applying the revised energy sector levies. Per the communication, each oil marketing company was expected to add 20 pesos to each litre of petroleum product. This should mean that a litre of petrol and diesel would be sold at 5 cedis 39 pesos from the current price of 5 cedis 19 pesos. It should also mean that a gallon of petrol and diesel could be selling at 24 cedis 25 pesos. Oil marketing firm Shell has taken the lead by increasing each litre of petrol and diesel by 19 pesos effective September 1, 2019, resulting in the service stations around the country adjusting their prices as displayed on their boards, as super goes for 5 cedis 38 pesos and diesel for 5 cedis 38 pesos. However, Joy Business is learning that other major oil firms are expected to review their prices later today. A kilogram of LPG should also go up by 8 pesos. Some of the oil marketing companies have told Joy Business that it might be difficult to absorb the expected increase. This is because its margins and profits have not been that good due to the increased competition in the sector. There are currently more than 100 oil marketing companies operating in the country. Most industry players will be looking up the industry leader, GOIL, as to whether it would increase its price or it may absorb it, a move which will influence others. Joy Business is also learning that prices could have gone down if it had not been the application of these levies as announced in the supplementary budget. The development could lead to some marginal increase in the cost of living, and some transport operators may be forced to increase their fares as a result of this development.
Well, I've been joined in studio by the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, Duncan Amor, for some analysis on the adjustment in prices. Obviously, you're not excited about this increase, judging from the statement you released today. What are your concerns?
Darrell, fuel prices are already neck-breaking in the country. We've had on several occasions called on authorities to reduce the taxes. Some of these taxes were introduced at the time that world market prices were quite low, and we thought that there should be some market parity pricing for the sub-region. Unfortunately, at the time that the prices have also shot up, your city has lost so much your pump prices are high. One would have expected the government to do the needful by reducing these taxes. Rather, taxes have gone up, and that is quite unfortunate.
I'm just wondering, could these taxes be avoided? I mean, taxes, the energy sector levies that government impose on petroleum products, could it have been avoided?
Indeed, yes, it could have been avoided. On this very platform, we've discussed severally how we allow fuel smuggling to now become a pervasive issue, such that as we speak, between 17 and 22% of all fuel sold within the country are going through the smuggling, route. And so if you allow almost 1.6 billion cedis revenue that you could have made from blocking the avenues for these fuel smuggling syndicates to go, and then you come back to Darrell, come back to Duncan, come back to Trotro and taxi drivers and say you want 300, 400 million, so you need to increase taxes. We think that it is totally misplaced, it is insensitive. Government could have just looked at an alternative stream of raising this revenue.
Because they really have challenges with revenue mobilization.
No.
What other approach could they adopt?
You see, Darrell, those engaged in the fuel smuggling activities are known. These are not angels, they are not ghosts operating from outer space. These are people you can put fingers to. Today, if you do a quick market scan, whereas BDCs are selling fuel for the OMCs at around 3 cedi 10 pesos, if you add the taxes, comes to about 5 cedis, whatever. If you add the OMC margins, comes to about 5 cedi 17, 5 cedi 18, 19. Some are selling at 4 cedis 90. And so you'll be asking if these products are indeed also coming through the regular stream. And so if you go to the market and you want to find out how these illegal products are becoming an issue on the market, it is not far-fetched. And we expect authorities to clamp down on illegal fuel smuggling so as to rake in these revenues.
Has in times past talked about clamping down on fuel smugglers. You think enough is not being done?
Not at all. I can state on authority that rather it is going up. The trend is rather going up. If you look at figures for 2016, 2017, the 2018 figures were a bit higher, much higher. What it therefore suggests is that we are not tackling that at all. So revenue that is due the state, tentatively, is allowed to go into private pockets. And if you allow 1.6 billion revenue stream to go, and you come taxing Ghanaians to raise 400 million, that is completely misplaced. That is completely insensitive. It's ill-timed, it's bad advised. And I think that the government would listen and apply the necessary pressures to stopping or halting the illegal fuel smuggling syndicate alone. That alone should be able to save this government a minimum 700 million for the rest of the year and about 1.6 billion for 2020, which the government itself, through the increase in taxes, is projecting to get 1.4, when 1.6 is already going to the illegal market.
Forget about the energy sector levies, tackle fuel smuggling, and that's what you're talking about this afternoon. So we understand that prices have gone up by as much as over 3%. What do you think is going to be the impact on consumers already feeling the pinch of other taxes as well?
You see, Darrell, governments over the period in the country have forgotten something very fundamental. There's always the pros and cons. There's always the negative and the positives. Whilst government only looks at revenue generation or mobilization, government forgets that once you push fuel prices, cost of living increases, right? Cost of transportation would go up generally. Cost of goods and services will go up. People's incomes, right, will not be able to take them home as they probably would have previously. So people that government does not expect to come back to dialogue for increased salaries will now come back to government and say, you want 300 million. Our salaries are not up to. So give us almost 400 million. Get it? So government will take on one hand, but will lose the money on the other because workers' incomes are not even able to sustain them. Again, you are collapsing industries in the country when you continue to increase fuel prices because they run a budget. And so if a company has fleets, right, and every day it uses about 1,000 or 5,000 and you add 4%, What it means is that the company would have to cough up additional funds, funds that it would have probably used to expand or used to employ additional hand to do a certain job. So jobs cannot be created. Existing jobs may be at risk because people now would have to struggle to be able to pay for their overheads. And so increasing fuel prices anywhere globally has a certain negative correlation to the economy. Unfortunately, our governments only look at the amount of money they can rake in, because every day Ghanaians consume almost 10 million, 11 million liters. So if I apply 1 CD or 10 pesos, every day I can make this amount. It's a very lazy, sort of approach towards raising revenue. Whereas if you don't stimulate the economy, you'll be killing jobs, you'll be killing businesses, you'll be increasing cost of living standards, whereas the people may not be able to actually pay for these things that you are increasing.
Before you go, I want to ask you about deregulation, and we've been asking on Facebook on our poll, asking whether or not deregulation has made an impact. I don't know if you can pull up the outcome of the poll for you. There you go. So we've been asking on our Joy Business page, you think the deregulation policy has been useful in determining fuel prices? And a majority, 80% of the people who have cast their votes so far say that it has not been useful. I'm talking about this because you mentioned it in your statement. And for people who had hopes that deregulation would have cushioned them, they are not exactly saying that, are they?
You see, Darrell, deregulation in Ghana only works within the margins of the oil marketing companies. All other factors of the price build-up are virtually constant. You can't do anything about it.
Okay.
So the taxes that have been increased, deregulation doesn't affect it at all. The world market prices that could go up or come down, when your city loses and fuel price have to go up, deregulation has nothing to do. Okay. Deregulation is only applicable where the OMCs have their margins. And so GOIL may decide that instead of 20 pesos, I'm doing 16 pesos. Total could say instead of 20, I'm doing 17. Allied could say instead of 20, I'm doing 4. Petrosol could say, that is where deregulation seems to be working. But where the government intervention really is, where the larger chunk of the money is, the ex-refinery price component, the tax component, there's no deregulation whatsoever in place. So it is really not working as people are saying, and I think the time has come that we sit and look at fuel price build-up in this country tentatively.
We've run out of time. Thank you very much, Duncan Amma, for your time. Executive Secretary of COPEC Ghana. We would definitely have a conversation in the coming days as well. Well, in other news this afternoon, Ghana's earnings from non-traditional exports witnessed some marginal increase for last year. It went up by 10% to hit $2.8 billion, and in 2018, the increase can largely be attributed to increase in demand for cashew nuts by European countries and Vietnam. Launching the Export Statistics Report, Chief Executive of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Ifua Sabiasari, believes the new export strategy could improve the numbers going forward.
Put in as much as we wish we would put in. The fact that we were even working with them, going along the journey with them, motivated them to even do more. So that's what this whole thing is about. It's about understanding what the people are doing, empathizing with them, being there for them. It made them see that and giving them a lot of training and understanding that this is not for themselves alone, but for the whole country. And so when they realize that they are doing this for Mother Ghana, they even get more excited and more interested in pushing what they're doing forward. And we also get strengthened and energized and help them to go on with what they are doing so that we can achieve more for this country.
You mentioned the new strategy, which nears is almost completed. Would it have any effect or impact on the numbers?
Oh, yes. We believe that it should have, because now we have a map to follow. Every stakeholder, all the agencies that are in the export ecosystem will know exactly what to do. Gone will be the days when we were all working in the dark, groping and not knowing exactly what we have to do. People don't know what exactly they will have to do to contribute to this whole export business. But with the National Export Development Strategy, everybody is going to find their path. It's like a roadmap to where we are all going to, which is over 5 billion by 2021. And it is spelled out what every organization should do, what every stakeholder should do, what GEPA is supposed to do to drive this business.
Government's new agri-policies like the Planting for Food and Jobs are set to be adopted by other African countries. This was made known at the ongoing Leadership for Agriculture Forum put together by the African Development Bank and philanthropist Bill and Melinda Gates in Accra. Speaking at the event, Agric Minister Owusu Efik-Akoto highlighted the need for African governments to give greater attention to the sector.
So the original projection that we are going to target 750,000 farmers for 2019, we had to quickly revise it to 1 million. And as I speak to you, we are on course to exceed the 1 million beneficiaries out of the 3 million households in Ghana. So the program is progressing very well, and I'm happy to say that that's on the food crop sector part of it. We've launched 2 more programs this year, that is the Planting for Export and Rural Development, selection of 6 tree crops that we are going to use to diversify away from cocoa. Ghana's agricultural economy is a monocrop economy. We've relied on cocoa for 130 years. We want to change that. And this is the instrument with which we are changing the landscape. And we are involving for the first time the local political administration, that the district chief executives have now become the tool by which we are multiplying seeds given to them to turn into seedlings, and then distributing these seedlings free of charge to the farmers, and it's very, very popular. Farmers are queuing in front of DCEs looking for seedlings of these crops to plant.
Meanwhile, Director for Agricultural Development at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Nick Austin, has challenged all African economies to prioritize agric as a tool for developing their economies.
We see tremendously strong evidence from the African continent of the effectiveness of growth of the agriculture sector. We also see that in places in Asia, places like South Korea, Vietnam, China, that have demonstrated by focusing in a committed way to smallholder farming, that can provide a strong platform for sustainable and broad-based growth. The evidence from these countries is clear that capitalising on economic potential requires one common element, and that's government leadership. And that's why the event today is so important, and that your participation today is so significant. Because it's through government leadership at all levels, across multiple ministries, that effective agricultural development, agricultural transformation, rural transformation and structural transformation can occur. That's why the Foundation's own investments in agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa.
Well, still related to agriculture, some local rice producers are calling on government to speed up its efforts in reducing the importation of rice onto the Ghanaian market. According to them, the practice is having a toll on their business. Owner of Avnav Rice Mill, a local rice production firm, Jai Michindani, is one of such advocates who spoke to Joy Business at the 6th Made in Ghana Awards, where he was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award for the year 2018. Bismarck Awusa has more.
Ghana is said to be importing rice close to the tune of $1 billion each year, a situation which is having a negative impact on the economy. According to the Chief Executive Officer of Avnash Industries Ghana Limited, Jai Mechandani, the influx of foreign rice onto the market, if not checked, could drive farmers out of business.
I think major problem is with the import. If you bring import, cheap import into the country and you don't protect the farmers, that becomes a problem. Now, as you know, many of the countries do subsidize. And when they subsidize, they are willing to dump just to get the dollars, just to get the foreign exchange. In that process, we kill our farmers, and that is not going to help.
He has, however, expressed his outfit's readiness in supporting government's efforts in giving local rice production a facelift.
Today we work with almost 32,000 farmers. I wish I could do with 100,000. It will help us. I think they can elevate their own poverty, which will help economy itself.
The The Made in Ghana Award saw Mr. Mechandani honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award, with his company's subsidiary, Royal Farmers Rice, recognized as the best quality agro-food products of the year. In all, about 42 locally manufactured products and some key personalities were awarded. Accra Breweries Club Lager Beer, for instance, emerged the premium quality alcoholic beer of the year. John Baptist Akado is the brand's manager at the Accra Brewery Limited.
Since 1931, when Club was first manufactured in Ghana, we've maintained that consistency in our product quality. So it means so much to us that Club beer is the best premium beverage alcoholic beer in Ghana.
Bismarck Awusa's reports for Joy Business.
All right, time for your stock market update. Joining me on phone is Bertha Atubiga, a market researcher with Gold Coast Fund Management. Thanks for your time this afternoon, Bertha. So we understand that MTN is going to be the main driver for this week. What are you seeing from where you are?
Okay, thank you very much, Daryl. Well, MTN Ghana is currently trading at 72 Ghana pesos on the Ghana Stock Exchange. It began this year at 79 pesos. We know it was listed last year at 75 pesos, and this year, if you look at the margin by which it's gone down, it's about 8.86%. And considering the trades that we've been seeing in the share for the past days, we are actually expecting that it's going to be a main driver this week for the stock market. A lot of people are going to take advantage of the low price to buy more, and we're also going to see that volatility in its price movement on the exchange.
Okay, I want to ask you next about Iton Drugs, because we heard last week that the South African drug manufacturer Adcock Ingram had disposed of its shares with Iton Drugs. What do we anticipate would be the impact on Iton's trading on the stock market?
Okay, let me first of all say that Iton Drugs is one of the, one of the inactive equities on the stock market, though it is one of the equities that is returning positively to investors with 14.29% year-to-date appreciation. But if you look at its performance in the last 6 months and even 1 year, we haven't really seen any significant changes in its price. It's still at 8 pesos. And the volume, however, has not also been very significant, with the exception of somewhere in May or somewhere in August, where we saw the share trade over 26 million shares on the Ghana Stock Exchange. That was the highest volume of shares that we've seen, especially for the last 10 trading days for Iton Drugs. But this news coming on board might have some marginal impact on its trading on the stock market, because it is not, if you want to look at very active equities on the market, and our market is not as efficient as other international exchanges where some of these news have very significant impact on the shares trading, the share trading on the stock market. Now, it's not very active, and the impact is going to be marginal, but we're also going to see, probably wouldn't see much volumes of shares trading in the equity in the coming days.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Bertha Atubiga of Gold Coast Fund Management, and in the marketplace this afternoon. My name is Daryl Kwa. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.